A man with your ability. Hearing people's thoughts. Strange delusion.
Hey ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, and welcome to another edition of the Senate Shorts. I'm your host, Neil, joined as always by my brother from another mother, and your host, Derek.
Yeah.
And together we bring you another edition of the Senate Shorts. And we have our resident woman, the Dr. Carrie Ann Pierre. And then we have my other brother from another mother, Mark. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit notification bell so you don't miss anything. Like the content, share the content so we can build the content. Anyway, my brother.
We are going to Piers Morgan and his show. Very interesting take on the topic here in these times. In 2023, I mean, this one of the things that you didn't think you would ever have to talk about, but it's 2023. Seems like if most things can happen. So let's hear what Piers has to say.
Why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Well, firstly, I mean, it was.
Well, I'm serious. If I can identify as anything without any need to prove I'm actually what that is, why can't I, on International Women's Day, say I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian?
I think taking it to a kind of absurd status,
I think
we're
that's
talking about quite a
with
strong
respect, I think that
change.
you'd already opened the absurdity door by saying it is limitless. You can do what you like. Anyone can say, I'm a woman. So I simply ask you, why can't I?
I mean, this point kind of ridicules trans people to an extent.
Actually, I think what you said ridicules trans people. Tommy, I mean, look, I don't see why, if it's limitless, I can't just say I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian. Because that is where limitless self-identity takes us. It means that male rapists can say they're women and get into female prisons. It means I can say I'm a two-spirit penguin or a black lesbian, and why can't I?
I like how the black woman laugh all the
Of course.
Dr. Carrie, see you with the gun fingers.
Guns blazing. He came out guns blazing. This is an argument that I keep hearing more and more these days, given the conversation around identity, which is part of the work I do, and given the conversation around intersectionality and this revival, I guess you can say for some people, around transgender, the concept of being transgender and the movement in this space. So this is the argument that people are saying that things have gotten to a point of being comical. You know, why not? Why can he not say I'm a black lesbian at this point? Because a lot of people, this whole process of changing your gender assignment and all this kind of stuff, people are going the limit. They're pushing the envelope so far that the rest of folks are wondering, okay, so then that means that I can identify in this particular way because it's just gotten out of hand now. So yeah, I don't blame him for asking that question. I mean, why can't he?
Mark, what you got to say about it?
I totally agree with what he was saying. Like, if you feel that you're a woman and you feel like you're a man and you want to do it, that's fine. But you got to be able to define it to some point. You got people. I remember, but it was say late last year or sometime in the last year and a half, they had a man that come down here and was dressed like a horse and prancing again. Let him be started his gate at the garrison.
Yeah, I met him. He was actually pretty cool.
Pretty cool, but
he doesn't identify as a black unicorn. That's just his thing.
Yeah, but you have people that identify as animals.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we've seen a video where a woman was barking like a dog in her front yard, and all sorts of things. Like, at what point is too much is too much enough? Like, you have to be able to identify what it is. As he said, why can't he identify as a black lesbian? I mean, it sounds comical, but if a man, if they're trans ages or whatever it is, like people that's like if we're going to that limits, we're going on a very slippery slope. Sorry. So we have to be able to quantify what exactly identifying as something is. Like, you want to identify as a woman. What is a woman? If you can't identify what a woman is, then I'm sorry, and I can get canceled for this. Identifying it as that does not make sense. Because if I tell people I'm an asshole, I can identify traits that qualify me to be an asshole.
Right.
If you want to be a woman, Can you identify traits? Can you identify traits that cause you to be a woman? Do you have breasts? Do you have reproductive organs? Do you have a period? Do you have the hips? Is your leg shorter? You know that whole femur, that bone, whatever. Yeah, I was never too good at biology, but I'm gonna get what I mean. Like, there has to be traits to identify as what it is. I can say identify as a car. I don't have a motor. I don't have AC, so I'm not a car. Like, let me say this. I have no issue if somebody identifies as another gender, another species, whatever. But if you are doing this, you have to be able to say what it is and what you identify and what causes you to identify, what traits, qualities, whatever. It's as simple as that, because we are getting too far left is right.
Yeah. Right. So this is my take on it, right? Y'all remember Rachel Dolezal in 2015 when she was a white woman born to white parents but self-identified as a black woman?
Yeah. Yep.
And she got roasted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was not 8 years ago. And I find it so funny now that people saying, skin color is something that you can see. You can, it is something that you're born as. It's something that you can identify. Right? I could look at Mark and see that he's a black man. You know what I mean? I could look at Derek and see he's a bald head, right? So I can see those things. I can't be having hair.
Give the power to
I can't have hair. I can't have an afro and identify as a bald man by this logic, right? What I find fascinating is that we are trying to, as just kind of piggybacking on what Mark's saying, we're trying to erase this line, this definition of things, right? As Mark alluded to, if you cannot tell me what a woman is, because if you haven't watched the documentary by Matt Walsh, What is a Woman, you should watch it. Regardless of what side of the fence you fall on, it's food for thought. Whether to enforce your belief that is nonsense or to enforce your beliefs that, the other side is nonsense. The point remains is watch that documentary. If I, as a man, cannot tell you what is a woman, if no one can tell you what is a woman, that people self-identify as a woman, then there's no sense in calling someone a woman. Because there are no parameters to define a woman. If you have a child, baby is being raised, right? I'm going to point at Carrie and say that is a what? Well, if I can't call her a woman, or if I can't use the pronouns her, then what was a man? What is a dog? What is a tree? What I'm trying to say is that as much as you can identify as, you can say, okay, your identity and what you believe you are is what makes you, then what is stopping from Rachel Dolezal being a black woman? So it has nothing to do with what you were born or how you were born or how you see or how you identify, right? The reason why we have certain words in the English language is for ease of use. Women, remember the other day now, again, a few years ago, around the same time as the Rachel Dolezal thing, when you call a woman a female, that's problematic. You call a woman a female, a bitch is a female. You understand? Birds can be female. Elephants can be female. So you lumping me into an animal? That was the thinking. And I'm saying that if we cannot define things, if you can self-identify as whatever you want to self-identify as, what's wrong with Rachel Dolezal identifying as black? What is wrong with me being recognized as a king? What is wrong with Derek identifying as a billionaire? What's wrong with Mark identifying as Lord and Savior? You understand? Piers Morgan, let me go back to Piers Morgan. He identifies as a black lesbian. That's too ridiculous. That's too far. You can't do that. Right? Because you're trying to be absurd. But let's say somebody genuinely wants to identify as Rachel Dolezal wants to identify as a black woman. She can't do that. That is too far. That is wrapped up in controversy. That is insensitive to the true black people's struggle. What about the struggle of real women?
Yep.
Dr. Carey is a woman, right? Dr. Carey and I have had serious discussions about we always talk about taking care of yourself as both man and woman, right? And Dr. Carey has seen both the effects of not taking care of yourself as a man and a woman. Dr. Carey is a woman, and Dr. Carey has had issues as a woman that somebody cosplaying as a woman can never have. The inability to have children, not saying Dr. Carey have children, but the inability to have children is a unique woman thing. No, what you identify as a woman with, what is PCOS? That's what it's called, it?
Polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Right. So you identifying as a woman that has that. The women that identifying as men, you can't inseminate sperm into the body. Right. You understand me? You can't. I just think that, as Mark said, you can identify as whatever you want to identify as. That is at you. But please understand that you cannot expect the entire world to get down with your thoughts and beliefs. Because if I have to get on, like if they're looking to change the laws of pronouns so that I could appease to you, that you want to be they, them, and him, her, and whatever you want to be, right? Then when I say I'm a Christian, you can't get down on me. That's my belief system. Shoot, the America is famous for not wanting to have certain laws being Christian. You understand? You can't bring religion into certain spaces, right? But it's fine for a man to say, I am a she, her. It's fine for a woman to say it. I just think that this is the world we live in, where your beliefs, once it is trendy with a certain subset of people, good to go. But if your belief system goes counterculture to whatever is out there and pervasive on social media, you are likely to get cancelled. That is a problem, because that is saying that there's always say all the time, Animal Farm, all pigs are equal, but some pigs are more equal than others. And that is a problem. If you all can't see that being a problem, right? Where your belief system is more important than my belief system, and you have the ability to get me canceled based on my belief system, and you cannot be canceled based on your belief system, and I go counter to your belief system and can get canceled. You know what it's called, that, gentleman and lady? Oppression. Think about that. Think about a president of those United States and say, well, anybody that don't use the correct pronouns for someone, they're liable to see jail time.
That's where we're going.
But that's what happened in Canada.
And that's why Jordan Peterson is so vilified in Canada, because he rose to prominence and fame because all he simply said is he refuses to use any pronouns that don't make sense to him. That's all. You are infringing on his freedom of speech.
And indeed, that is exactly what it is. Because here's the thing. If I'm talking about Mark or talking to Mark, I'm going to say, yo, what's going on? Yeah, the conversation is here. I'm not going to refer to Mark as they, he, and they're talking to Mark directly. So it is, the use of the pronouns thing is an attempt to police other people's language and use of speech, right?
In the third person, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so that's really what it is. And in an attempt to police that, it can bring me to these other points here that I want to touch on quick before we wrap this up. The headline under Piers Morgan talked about war on women. We talked about this before. It is an eradication or an attempt to eradicate women, right? And just trying to even up the genders and all that there. We wiping out that. It's also an attack on masculinity, believe it or not.
Absolutely.
Right? It's also an attack on masculinity because we're trying to diminish the women, and we're also trying to diminish men as well. To do what? I don't know. And let me say here before we go any further that we know that gender dysphoria is a real thing. And some people are just not comfortable in the skin in which they were born. We get it, right? But at the end of the day, sometimes we gotta admit certain scientific facts and truths, right? I went to the doctor for a checkup a couple of years ago. And when I went in, the nurse looked at me and said, well, 6'4", right down by chart, right? I said, what?
She's all right. Tall.
Say tall, 6'4". I go on to the doctor now, who's about my height. I look at the chart. Look at me. It's probably about 6'2". So he probably, I say, well, yeah. I 6'2", we say about it's only a 6'4", but I find it for a period that evening I was saying shoot I trans tall. You know what I mean? I identify as 6'5". So
Trans tall.
yeah.
Until you stand up to somebody that's 6'5".
6'5".
Right, until you buck up. Wow.
So for at the end of the day, sometimes we gotta come down and say, you know what, this is why we like it to be, or this way it sound good to me, but really and truly, this is what reality is, and we don't want to do that. And I want to make this point too, for all the different genders that they got floating around now and stuff like that. You ever realize it's always come back to trans man or trans woman?
Yeah.
I never hear.
Really,
You know, because remember we did a short, is an unreleased short, but we would have talked about a story where a woman was identifying as a dog or a wolf or something like that. She was trans canine or something like that.
something like that.
Right. That don't sound right. Trans canine.
What?
Yeah, man. They be wilding in these streets.
But one point I want to make here too, right? You know what I find funny? Like narcissism. And Dr. Carey, you're the resident doctor in psychology and everything like that. Narcissism is wrapped up in everything being about you and punishing people that don't see or feed into you and what you believe in. That, am I correct in that? That's right.
Yep.
So then what do you call someone that says, I identify as a woman or identified as a man, and if you don't use my pronouns, I'm gonna get you canceled. I'm gonna make sure you don't get work. I'm gonna make sure that you get criminal punishment. Isn't that wrapped up a bit in narcissism?
You would call them a narcissistic sociopath.
Oh boy.
You would go that far because, there's a narcissism of the selfishness and being wrapped up in your way, always, right way, and everything has to revolve around you. And then there is a side of it where in being wrapped up in everything having to be about you, that you give no respect or value or regard for the well-being and welfare of others, a sociopathic tendency or void of that capability to be empathetic and caring type of stuff. So it would be a narcissistic sociopath if you mash it up. Just, there can be nitty-gritty further diagnosis to it, but just a broad brushstroke. Yeah.
Well, ain't that some shit?
Interesting discussion as always. Folks, this has been another Senate Short. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to ensure that you do not miss any of the content we got coming for you. We can see you guys again soon.
The contaminated environment in the tutus about that.